Okay, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So welcome to the last day of the first part of workshop on professional writing, which is on professional emails. So we've covered quite a bit in the last 2 days, and we're going to close it for today. So only a few things remain. This is like the last part of the of what we discussed on contents of email, right? So this is where we started from. Um, so if you look at this one, we've covered the first two, fifth one already, right? All of this has been covered in the last 2 days. We've discussed at length on how to do this, how to come up with effective subject line salutations, how should a purpose statement look, what do we mean by detailed statements, what's closing remarks. All of this have been discussed at length. Today, we are going to look at that last remaining part there, which is called the complementary close, okay, or essentially how you end the email. And then the next one is signature. Of course, signature is nothing to discuss. That's just your name and your designation or your official address, right? Uh, so nothing to talk about much on there. But then the sixth one, which is complementary close, we'll look at it like we looked at the salutations and the various levels of writing complementary clauses, which is mostly based on the formality scale. That would be the last part to discuss in the contents in an email, which actually, or what forms actually a professional email, right? Then we are going to look at the more part on language, which is the editing and proofreading part. So a little bit of discussion we'll do around that. And then with the remaining time, we are going to work on the questions like we did yesterday, okay? So this is what the plan for today is. Most of the people who have been attending for the 2 days, I don't see them there. Probably it's a Sunday, so people don't want to come, but that's okay. We'll anyway begin with the class for today, okay? Right. So ending the emails, or what is also technically called as the complementary close in a professional email, right? So just like the salutation, we are going to look at what forms effective complementary clauses based on the various levels of formality. So the first range that you see there on the screen, beginning with more formal to less formal. This is basically just like you saw in the case of salutation. This is a range of formality, right? A degree of formality beginning from what is more formal to what is least formal, or most formal to least formal, whichever way you want to look at it. So, for professional emails, the most formal methods to end them, or the most formal complementary clauses, would include the first three options that you see in the first box, right? So, it could either be best regards, it could be yours sincerely, or sincerely, right? It could be any of these three. However, in professional emails that are like really, really formal, right? In the cases where the familiarity between the audience and the writer is really, really low, like say you do not really understand each other, or you're strangers to each other, then you mostly prefer either number three, which is sincerely, or number two, yours sincerely. Yours sincerely, again, these days when you write these clauses, people prefer sincerely over yours sincerely. I've included the option for yours sincerely also, since a lot of people would, I still see a continued use of yours sincerely. But keep this in mind that we really do not need that yours anymore, right? You can simply write sincerely and be done with, and it's definitely considered very formal to do that. So do not think that, oh, because I did not include yours, it's going to sound rude. It's not, right? In fact, if you look at the Northern American context or the British context, these days people actually omit writing yours, especially, something like yours truly, yours faithfully, yours obediently. All of these have become very obsolete, right? Even for letters, they have become very obsolete. So emails, definitely, it is not advised that you use that kind of clauses. So either keep it to sincerely. Sincerely should be the best way to go about it. But if you're more habituated to writing your sincerely, then you can use that as well. It's not wrong, but try to use as much as possible sincerely. And then you also have best regards. This is also like a very neutral way of putting forth a clause, right? Then a little lesser than this, right? A little lesser than all the three that you see in the first box. You have the closest that you see in the second box, which is regards, best wishes, or all the best. Okay. So this is, say this is something that amounts to semi-formal tone, right? The first one is considered formal, most formal way of closing the email. The second ones, which is regards, best wishes, and all the best. These are formal, but not as formal as the other one, right? So somewhere in between, or what we also call a semi-formal, right? If you're writing a semi-formal, so what are the situations which are considered semi-formal? For example, like we discussed yesterday, what could be an example of a semi-formal situation? In your office, for example, in your professional space, what could be considered
Colleagues, like
right?
calling your colleagues for lunch and breakfast.
Correct, exactly. So, inviting your colleagues for lunch, or, asking their confirmation on their presence for an internal meeting or some kind of a presentation at the office, all of this would amount to what we call as semi-formal situations, right? So these are formal, but not extremely formal. Semi-formal because there is also some levels of familiarity between the people who are involved here, right? There are people who know each other, right? They probably are at different hierarchies. They probably are also at the same levels. It could be either way. But then the factor involved here is that they're familiar with each other. They share the same office space. So that kind of situations, or anything that comes up in that kind of a space, is then referred to as a semi-formal occasion. So for semi-formal occasions, you could use any of the three that you see in the middle box here, right? Regards, best wishes, or all the best, right? Any of this should be fine. And remember, in semi-formal situations also, you can use sincerely. So anything that is formal can be used in any situation. Okay, something that is formal can be used for any situation because it is safe. Formal is safe, right? But what you cannot do is the other way around. You cannot use something that is used in a semi-formal or a less formal situation in a formal domain, right? So formal in the other domains are okay, but then less formal things in the formal domain is something that is not at all okay in professional writing, right? And then you have the last one, which is considered the least formal. So best and yours, that's the two options you have. Sometimes, you could also avoid giving any complimentary clause. So in informal or like least formal kind of emails, sometimes people just close without even the complimentary clause, right? They just write that one line, what they want to say. Like we mentioned the other day, that in semi-formal, informal emails, sometimes that purpose statement is the only line that you have. So they just write the salutation, and then they just write the email, that one line purpose statement, and then close it. They probably not even mention anything as a complimentary clause. But in case you're planning to do that, then you have two options. One is best and one is yours. Okay. So from the way they are written, I think it is obviously, it's obvious to you, and you can make the guess that this is usually used only for people who are at your same levels, or people who are more close to you, who are your friends, so on and so forth, right? So these are very simple. These three boxes tell you what are considered as the effective complementary clauses for emails, professional emails, beginning with the first box from being most formal to the last one, which is the least formal, right? That's all. Very simple. Just like your salutation, this one also is coded so that you have some options to pick from. Okay. All right. So that is all about the email writing part. The contents of the email are just that much. So we've covered, like I showed you, everything beginning from subject line until the sixth point, which is the complementary clause. That's what we just discussed. So all of this together is going to make up your professional email. From 1 to 6, everything needs to be present. Seventh one is what you call as a signature. And signature, like I mentioned in the beginning of the session, signature is basically just your name, right? Your name and your official designation and address. It is not your address, your personal address, unless, of course, you are a business consultant who run a firm out of your home or something. Even in that case, you will have to definitely provide your registration numbers and other things as a part of your signature. But for most of us, it would be, our name and our designation and our official address, right? Particularly if you are somebody who writes emails for the, for the reasons of conducting a business or you do a client facing job or some kind of thing, then make sure that all your emails are professionally signed, right? The signature is very, very important in all such cases. Do not just have a plain name and be done with that. For internal communication, most probably you can do that technique, but whenever you're writing to people outside your organization, in particular, make sure that all your emails are, they necessarily include a signature, which includes your name and your official, your designation and your official address, okay? Some people had a question last time when we were talking, can we include social media handles, like say the LinkedIn profiles or link to LinkedIn profiles or say Facebook or, that sorts. The answer to that is you may or may not, right? It's optional. It's not absolutely necessary that you include that. But if you think that adding that, handles, link to the handles of your social media accounts would help you, then you can, right? But this is not, as far as the format part is concerned, including the handles or their links are not absolutely important. But this is more to the, sender or the writer's discretion. If you think adding it could improve your reach, then you can do that, right? Otherwise, not necessary. It's an optional thing. That's what I meant. Okay. So that is about the contents of an email. Now we are going to discuss a bit about, the writing part, which is the language part of the email, right? We discussed quite a lot of things about how the language of an email should be. I showed you a few examples of useful phrases in case you're beginners and you're, not very sure of how to start off with an email or how to end it. We looked at a few expressions yesterday, right? Some set expressions that are used in professional emails, which can be used by people who are either beginners or, are not very confident about writing it on their own, right? And more than being not confident about writing it on your own, these are some set expressions, right? These are some conventionally written sentences that you can find in most of the professional emails. So we looked at a few of them yesterday. But more than that, we are going to talk about the part which you will be writing on your own, right? Certainly, even with the help of all those set phrases, there is some part of the email which you are going to compose on your own. So what are the things that you need to keep in mind while you're composing sentences that go into that body of the email is what we're going to discuss for the next half an hour or 45 minutes or so, okay? So that's what we'll do now. So this is on editing and proofreading, right? There it is on the slide, but then at the outset, can one of you try and tell me what is the difference between editing and proofreading in writing? Editing and proofreading. What do you think could be the major difference between editing and proofreading?
And editing basically refers to correcting the typos, and proofreading might be the second one for determining the content, style, and language and format.
It's actually the other way around. Okay. So editing would be usually concerned with the content and style, when you are revising. So the next step after you have written your draft of the email, right? This the next thing that you're going to do is the editing part, right? So editing basically includes looking at your content, style, and other kind of logistics that you have used to come up with the email. So this is basically revision of the logistics, and logistics basically includes the organizational aspects of writing, which means, have you written well-formed sentences, right? Some of the questions that editing or the editor at job is used to or they deal with is, are the sentences well-formed? Have the people, have someone who has written this email, or for that matter, any other professional document, have they written too long sentences? Have they used language that is too circumlocutory? Is their word choice correct? Is the message clear? Is there clarity in the message? Is the message accurate, right? Has it followed the standard conventions of the writing that, writing template that is used in that domain of writing? Is the style suitable for, publications, right? Is the content up to the mark, right? These are few questions that the editor of a journal or an editor of a magazine or editor of a newspaper, these are the kind of questions that the editors are concerned with, right? So they are going to look at the overall logistics of that writing, the logic of that writing to make it simpler, right? So they will check for the logic. Is there a good logic in this writing? Right? Has all the steps been correctly followed to put this content together, which includes the checking of the accuracy and the style and the register. Register is basically, they check whether the language used is suitable for that, right? Is the polite, so in the case of professional email, using the politeness register is very, very important because it's a professionally written document. So they'll check for whether, the modal verbs are used properly or not. Are the salutation given properly or not? Is the convention being followed there or not? Right? Usually there is no editor for professional email. We are our editors. But because we discussed email, I just gave you examples from that. But in general, editors who work on even longer pieces of writing, this is generally what they do, right? They look at the content and style. They look at the logistics of the writing, right? Or the suitability and the readability of the writing, right? So readability is a very, very important quotient in writing. The editor also looks for whether this is written in such a way that it is easily readable by the audience, right? So if it is a journal write-up or say a research writing, so they'll look for technical vocabulary. They'll see if the person has used a good technical vocabulary so that the reviewer can understand and read and value it in a better way. If there is a lack of technical vocabulary in your writing, then they will write back saying that, see, your domain knowledge looks very feeble. You haven't included the basic domain words that should be used, right? Or they will send it back saying that clarity is required because you have not used technical terms properly. So this is more or less what an editor would do at job, right? And the editor would see if it has been, all what you have said has been logically put together, whether the first sentence logically flows to the second, or does it look like jumbled set of sentences without any order, right? All of this is the work of the editor. Now, in professional email, relatively, this work is very, very easy because you barely have 3 or 4 sentences at hand. So it is unlikely that you'll find this as a daunting task. I'm talking about editors who would read 20 page, 25 pages of essays, and that too for multiple people in a day, right? So that is a very daunting task. But here we are our editors. We just have our own email, which is 3 to 4 sentences long. And we know what should be the first sentence, what should it be followed with, how should you end it. All of this is known to us. Our only task would be to see if we are following the right kind of word choice. Have we used the right words that express our meanings or communicate our ideas properly? Have we used the right style and register of the language? And has our content or purpose been delivered properly? This is the only thing we have to do, right? So editing will involve checking on all of these things. What is proofreading, on the other hand? Proofreading is basically looking for errors in spelling, errors of grammar, right? This is what is called proofreading, right? So proofreading is an easier task these days. Editing is something that involves more time, particularly if you're talking about, longer pieces of writing, right? So surface level errors and grammar is usually what makes up the proofreading task. Editing would be mostly connected to the revision of logistic errors in writing, which includes content, style, language, and format. Okay, that's the major difference between two. Keep this in mind. Now, more refined or more defined aspect of what editing is about. Editing looks at the content, the overall structure and format of what you have written, clarity of the message that you're trying to deliver in your write-up, and the style that you have used. Okay, style here means style includes tone, style includes the choice of words that you have used, right? The register that you've used, all of that becomes a part of style. Okay, somebody asks you, what do you mean by style in writing? Tell them we are talking about the choice of words, word choice or language, register, which includes politeness register and legal. If it is written in the legal space, then legal register works in a very different way. They have a different way of writing. If you're writing in scientific domain, then they have a scientific register is a very different kind of register, right? So style includes register, which is again all this register, tone, and what else? Word choice, all of this, remember, they're connected to language we use, right? Style will also include the use of technical vocabulary. So you check your language first to see whether the the vocabulary you used, technical vocabulary or jargon you used is in place. This is what the overall part on editing is. Now, what do we mean by editing the content? So these are the 4 things: content, overall structure, clarity, and style is what you basically edit your work for. Now, what do we mean by editing something for the content? So if you're editing your work for content, what are the things that, or what are some of the questions you will ask yourself? These questions on the screen is in connection with the professional email. Okay, this is not for all the other work. Since we are discussing emails, I've just put together the questions required for editing the content of an email, right? First thing, is the major question answered, or is the purpose stated clearly, right? More generally, you can say editing a piece of writing for content would include the question, is the major question answered? In the case of email, you can say that this question can be rephrased as, is the purpose stated clearly? So whatever you are writing for, is that particular purpose being conveyed clearly in your email or not? This is the first part when you're editing the content you're going to look at, right? Additionally, you will look at, does the supporting statements support the purpose statement? Now, this means, has the detailed statement that you've included after your purpose line in the email, is it communicating, or is it giving additional and enough details about the purpose stated clearly or not? So technically, you're going to check the first two sentences and see if they're doing their work properly. This is for email, right? Then the second part, that is editing for overall structure. If you're looking for the editing of overall structure of the content, in this case email, you're going to look at the few questions that's here. The first question, is there a clear introduction and conclusion? Okay, remember, even if you're talking about a professional email, which is just 3 or 4 sentences long, introduction and conclusion is definitely a part of it. Can you comment on this? It's on the screen, but can you talk about what do we mean by intro and conclusion in an email, professional email? What forms your introductory part in your professional email?
Telling about yourself, or
your purpose statement, right? That is your introductory statement in your professional email, right? In a longer form of essay or maybe another article, you probably have a paragraph which gives you some kind of background information or sets the premise for whatever the person is going to read in the following paragraphs. But since we are talking about a very, very small form of writing, as far as the length of the write-up is concerned, your purpose statement almost coincides with the introductory aspect of your email, right? Closing remarks becomes your conclusion. Remember, closing remarks, the courtesy line that we use, right? I look forward to meeting with you, look forward to seeing you, so on and so forth. This then will form the closing remark, the conclusion part. Okay, if you, I think for English 2 people, you already have watched that lecture on professional writing in English 1. If you can recall from that, conclusion statements, there are a couple of things that conclusion statements could do. Anybody whose memory is sharp or who has understood the lectures clearly, who can comment on this? What are the kinds of conclusion statements you have in professional writing? A conclusion statement can be either a sentence that makes a suggestion, or a sentence that gives you recommendation, or something that simply reinforces what is being said in the topic sentence, right? Alternatively, it can also be something that calls for action, right? So these are all the different kinds of conclusion statements in a paragraph. So closing remarks also then amounts to some kind of a call for action statement in the professional email, right? So then it is directly in alignment with what we call as conclusions for paragraphs also. Although this is like just 3 or 4 sentences long write-up, it still has. See, in writing, remember, no matter what the length of the write-up is, whether it is 10-page long or 1-page long or just 1 paragraph long or just 4 sentences long, whatever you write in formal spaces, whatever you write needs to have this logical order of introduction, body, and conclusion. Even if it is just one sentence each, it still follows that logical capsule of having introduction, body, and conclusion. So same thing is applicable to your email also, right? Because that is what gives structure. The writing is very structure oriented. If you do not have structure, then your writing looks really bad. So to begin with, ensure the structure, we make sure that whatever we write, long or short, we make sure there is a proper clear introduction and a body and a conclusion. Okay, so that is applicable in the case of email as well. That's what I'm saying. Second question again, very, very important, no matter what the length of your writing is the order of the sentences logical, right? This is also something that was covered in that lecture, if you can recall from that. Okay, logical order of the sentences. Basically, we're saying that the sentences must be coherent, right? There should be cohesiveness between the sentences, which means there should be a smooth flow from one sentence to the next. That is what it means, right? So that is again applicable in the case of writing here as well. Okay. Last one, are transitions between sentences and paragraphs clearly visible? Okay, so in this case, just sentences because we do not have paragraphs here. So moving from the purpose statement to the detail and then from the detail to closing remarks, are we providing good transitions or do they look like abrupt transition from one to the other? Right. So for the sake of good transitions, then we use transitory devices or what is also called as, what do we call transition devices otherwise? Linking words, right? Words like however or furthermore, moreover, linking words. Linking words, basically their task is to link two sentences together, right? Or make the transition from the first to the next smooth. That's what they do. So all of that which is applicable to a basic writing in English or any language is applicable for email as well, right? So editing for overall structure, we'll look at these questions. Okay. Third part in editing is to look for the clarity. Now this clarity is directly the last two, which is clarity and style. These two are directly connected with the language that you use, right? So first question, are all the terms that I have used in the email clearly defined? Have I used any confusing word which could have, say multiple interpretations and is not suitable for what I'm writing? These things you need to ask yourself, right? That is, you need to work on the definitiveness of the terms used. Second, are the meaning of the sentences as intended by the author? So when you are editing for clarity, see if the sentences that you've put together actually conveys the meaning that you want to deliver, or is it, sounding like something else, right? Third, does the choice of words effectively express the ideas, right? The words that you have used to put together the sentence, are they good enough? Are they effective in expressing the ideas that you wanted to convey? So in this part, you're also going to see if the language you used is formal, is it direct, is it factual, is it free from vagueness, right? Is it non-wordy? What is non-wordy? What do we mean by non-wordy? Any idea?
Artificial words we actually create.
That would be the last one, non-ornate, right? Non-wordy would be, see, there is something called wordiness in writing. Wordiness basically mean, when you write 10 words instead of the 5 words you should. The need was only to write 5. You could have very well written something in 5, but then you ended up using 10 words to write that. So you're overshooting the number of words that you've used, or say you've unnecessarily used a lot of words which actually doesn't add anything to the meaning, but they're just cluttering the sentence, right? So that is called wordiness. So you need to make sure that whatever you've written is non-wordy, because wordiness is going to directly affect the one of the most basic element of professional writing, conciseness, right? We know, we have been discussing this, that conciseness is like a very, very important part as far as professional writing is concerned. So if your writing is wordy, then the conciseness part is going to be affected. You'll write a long thing, but then that would not contain any meaning. You'll end up using a lot of unnecessary words and phrases which actually do not carry any meaning. It's not adding anything to your writing, but it's just sitting and cluttering the sentences or the write-up that you're delivering. So that is non-wordy. Vagueness in writing. Can you give me a few examples of vagueness? What do you think is, just give me a few expressions that can make your writing vague, according to you. No idea? Have you come across
Sorry, ma'am?
what are some of the expressions that you think can make your writing vague?
Using stuff and
Using?
stuff like different
Okay,
type
good.
of
Yeah, this is also there in that lecture, right? So vagueness is basically when you come up with too many filler words, right? So even words like right and okay and they're perfectly fine when you're using them in conversations, right? even consider them as discourse markers that let you continue a conversation. But that's not the case with writing, right? Especially professional writing, because you also have to ensure conciseness. If you keep using too many fillers or discourse markers unnecessary, discourse markers are used. Like, for example, transition devices or linking words are also kind of discourse markers, right? But not in the case of main sentences where you should have actually used words that could amount to a meaning, but then you ended up using too many fillers like stuff or sort of, kind of, right? So on and so forth, right? These kind of filler words, which are commonly used in conversations, must be absolutely avoided in professional writing. Keep things as specific as possible. Don't put anything that is unnecessary. Yeah, wanna, gonna is also, they're not vague per se, but they are informal use. This is what we call as slangs and colloquialisms, right? These are informal instances. I think the first day when we were discussing, we talked about them a bit. But vague words or vague expressions are the ones like, stuff or, some people have a habit of saying, could you pass me that thing? Okay. Or the thing is that I would like you all to come and talk to me about the presentations you are making tomorrow. So you see there, the word think has absolutely got nothing to do in that sentence. You could have simply said, I would like you all to come tomorrow to my office at 10 a.m. and make your own presentations, right? This was good enough. But why say thing like the thing is that? That particular phrase and particularly the word thing there is doing nothing in that sentence. It's not adding to the meaning. It is not providing any linkage. It is not helping you maintain a flow or anything. It's simply sitting there cluttering that sentence without doing anything good there, right? So this is how we differentiate between what is considered formal writing and something that is considered as bad writing. Okay, plain bad writing. So that's vagueness. Non-cliched expressions. What is cliche? What do you call cliche? When do you call an expression cliche? What is the meaning of the word cliche? Have you heard this before? Cliche?
Yes, ma'am. Overuse of phrases.
Yeah, overuse of phrases, right? So you use certain phrases or sometimes even certain sentences so often that, because of the overuse, they now sound very boring or they even sound unnecessary most of the times, right? So you have expressions like last but not the least, right? Uh, and several other expressions, right? These are considered cliched expressions, again, because overuse has made them actually, non-meaningful. And when you use such expressions in the writing, they're again same. They just clutter the space, they add to the clutter, but actually don't give any meaning. Okay, you could remove that sentence and very well have a well-formed sentence which gives you a proper meaning and also maintains it. So that is cliche. And then you have next one, which is non-ornate. This is what Premanand, you were talking about, something that is not overly decorated. Don't use words which sound like over embellished, right? That's non-ornate. Any examples of ornate expressions? Ornate expressions, any idea? Examples. Words that are like more fancy, right? We do not know, what they actually mean, but they just sit there and it looks like it's beautiful, but then it is actually useless and not providing any good meaning to the sentence. Any examples that you have for ornate expressions? Sorry. No?
No, ma'am, not getting an idea.
You are not getting what it is. I am trying to find something. Actually, it's quite difficult to locate certain things here. That's why I'm just wandering with that. Let me check this one. Ornate expression sample should be actually easy to understand. But let me see if we have some good enough one so that you can take a look at them. Yeah, okay, here. So ornate expressions, I think, actually you can, even cliches are a kind of ornate expressions, but for more examples, I think, phrases like dead as a doornail, last but not the least, agree to disagree. This is why I always hear this. Up in the air, pushing the envelope, okay? Or, even if you come to the email context, then, there are these expressions which people use all the time. Please find attached, okay? Attached, please find. Please be advised that pursuant to your request. Okay, these are some of the expressions that, so instead of saying, please find attached, actually the right and the formal way of writing that would be, I have attached so and so along with the email. Instead of saying, please be advised that, you simply say, kindly or please note that. Okay, you don't have to say, please be advised that. This sounds a little decorated use of a language. Pursuant to your request. Instead of writing pursuant to your request, you simply say, as you requested. Okay. So these are few examples, and then a few more sentence examples for this. Pursuant to your request, please find attached the status report, right? This sounds very ornate and very embellished. You simply can write, as you requested, I have attached the status report, okay? Or a sentence like, please be advised that the conference will end at 4 instead of 3:30. You simply can write, the conference will end at 4 instead of 3:30. So the please advise that part is removed from that, right? Why is it removed? Because it is ornate and it's actually not contributing anything to the meaning. So they simply remove. Okay. Yeah. So these are some of the instances of ornate expressions. Vague language, I think we already discussed, stuff, thing, etc., so on and so forth. Sort of, kind of, or the conference will start in about half an hour. So about, right? This usage of such words are also considered quite vague and less factual. Uh, this event may start in and around. You can find this book in and around that library. So in and around is another expression. The show might start 8-ish, 8-ish, okay, 8-ish. So you're not giving an exact time, a specific time, you're saying it will start 8-ish. Or expressions like, the work is more or less done. So more or less is another expression which contributes to vagueness. Then other expressions would be that kind of thing, stuff like that, things like that type of thing, that sort of thing. These are all vague expressions, okay? These are the expressions that may not be considered effective or even right in terms of professional writing, right? Yeah, so these are the things that you will be taking care of in the clarity part when you're editing for the clarity part of writing. And style, obviously, it is going to look for the levels of formality. It is going to look for tone. In case of email, it is going to ensure whether you have used a personal and impersonal and objective tone. Have you used any subjective statements like, pleasantry statements like, how are you? And are you doing well? I'm doing fine here. How was your health? And, all of those pleasantry exchanges must be avoided. Instead, you keep the tone quite objective and impersonal, which means you come straight to the point, right? So tone is then checked for. Register, which is the politeness register, is checked for. And any kind of irrelevant use of language is checked for. So what does this irrelevant use of language? I think in the first session, I talked to you about this. Like somebody showed me, I think it was probably in a lecture or something, someone was talking about the use of Indian English and how some people, Indian English is like an institutionalized variety. A lot of people do use it. But even within that, some people use language to their own, in a way that they think is suitable for them. So one example the speaker gave was, the speaker is an Indian who works in the US. He's a professor there, and he was saying when students from India write to him seeking either internships or maybe, requests for a PhD positions, people write to him, and the emails start with greetings with folded hands, right? I think I mentioned this example. So greetings with folded hands translates perfectly well into any of our Indian languages, right? We can say Haath Jodkar Namaskar or whatever. I think I'm just using the Hindi example. Even if you look at the other languages, you will have some equivalent to that, because although we speak different languages, we are culturally quite similar, right? Or there are at least some parts of culture that's similar to all of the people living in this country. But English is a very different language with a very different culture. So you use the same thing to come up with, same kind of expression to come up with in English. That's going to sound really odd to people who are not familiar with this context, right? It will be like, what do we mean by greeting? So the first question would be, why should you fold hands to greet anybody? Right? Because the person is unaware about the culture. So these kind of expressions, when they go into although your only intention was to be a little polite to the person, this can look, this can put the person off. They'll be like, what is this? I don't even understand what that means, right? And professional writing or that kind of spaces is not a space meant for any kind of ambiguity and confusions. So any expressions, whether for the sake of courtesy or whether for the sake of the actual content, needs to be edited and needs to be verified and revised to remove any unnecessary cultural elements that can creep in, right? Keep it as formal and professional as possible. So irrelevant phrases and all would amount to some of these, right? If you think there are unnecessary phrases which doesn't make any sense, please remove all of them before you click the send button. Okay, now next about the proofreading techniques. Proofreading techniques, these are some very generic proofreading techniques. Of course, each kind of write-up will have their own methods of proofreading. This is what you see on the screen are like very generic, a very general understanding of what proofreading means, right? So read your emails aloud or read whatever you're writing aloud. Make a list of errors that you commonly commit and look for them as a first step. So you will know, right? If you have proofread any of your work before, you know what are the kind of mistakes you actually are more prone to, right? Some people are vulnerable to certain kind of mistakes all the time. No matter how many times they try to correct it, some things, it's just so deeply etched in your mind that it just doesn't go away. Some people have grammatical errors that have they're now living with it. It has become difficult for them to move past. So what you can do in order to make sure that you don't commit such errors while writing, have a list of such errors prepared with you, that, okay, these are the errors that I usually commit. So go to that list first and check for those errors first. See that if anything in that list has been, has crept into your writing when you were doing when you were writing the email. So first get done with that, take it off your desk, then go to the other errors that might have come in, right? Third thing, proofread for only one error at a time. So look for only one error at a time. Don't try to, find out every error at the same go. Tell yourself, okay, first I'm going to look at the subject-verb agreement error. If I'll first find out if the sentences have any errors with respect to subject-verb agreement. So I'll first do that. Okay, I'll look at that and then I will move on to the other errors. Then once that is done, you go on to the next, wherein you're going to check the spelling errors. Okay, then you move on from that and go to the errors of the inflectional endings. Have I used any double past tense anywhere, right? Have I used my punctuations anywhere wrong, right? So go step by step, one error at a time. Okay. And last, proofreading also checks for, so while you're proofreading, you also see if the format of the write-up is, because remember we are checking the surface level problems, right? So which also includes the format. So check if the format has been properly followed. Okay. Now, I have a list of errors that are very commonly seen in professional writings. These slides you probably would have already seen in your lectures on professional writing. Just to brush up what you have read there, I'm sure most of you might have already forgotten about them. So we're, silently going to look at these errors. Please read through these sentences and tell me if you have any question, right? So all the next, I think 2-3 slides, we are just going to look at what accounts for most of the surface errors or grammatical errors that we see in professional writing. Okay. Right. The first one here is missing comma after introductory phrases. Please read that example. What is the introductory phrase here?
According to the secretary.
Yeah. So according to the secretary, right? That's the introductory phrase, because if you look at the rest of the part, it's actually a full sentence. The file should be submitted in a sealed envelope, right? A good sentence in English, subject, verb, agreement, everything in place. Um, according to the secretary is an introductory phrase which has been additionally attached to this sentence to provide some details, right? So that phrase needs to be separated from the main sentence, the main clause, with a comma, right? Most of the times we see this is an error where many people tend to omit this comma while they're writing, right? So commas need to be followed up after introductory phrases in all sentences. Even if this comes at the end of the sentence, the same thing has to be done. You have to separate it from the main clause using a comma. Okay. So the file should be submitted in a sealed envelope, comma, according to the secretary, right? Even if you're using that method to write, although that is not a recommended method in professional writing, one is supposed to always use phrases that you want to add in the beginning of the sentence than at the end of the sentence, unless of course you are doing it to provide emphasis to the phrase itself, right? It's always the phrase first and then the sentence. But whatever be the case, the phrase needs to be separated from the main clause using the comma. That's the idea. Then comes vague pronoun references. Please read those two sentences and tell me what it is trying to tell you. She gets a bus first and then the bike to go to her school. It is blue in color. She gets a bus first and then the bike to go to her school. The bus is blue in color.
Here she is using two modes of transport,
Yeah.
but in the next sentence, the pronoun that is used is targeted to which mode of transport, it isn't clear.
That isn't clear, correct, right? So vague pronoun reference, because the it is blue in color in the first sentence, we do not know what it is pointing towards, right? We don't know whether the person is talking about the bus or the bike. So when you have situations like this, it is always better to replace your pronoun with the actual noun, right? Because there are more than one references, and if you're going to use just one vague pronoun to refer to it, it's the clarity of the statement is compromised, right? So vague pronoun references, that's one kind of common surface errors. Third one, missing comma in a compound sentence, right? So you have a compound sentence. What are compound sentences? They are compound sentences, independent or, main clauses, independent sentences or clauses that are conjoined with a coordinating conjunction such as and or so or but or, right? All of them.
Fanboys.
Yes. And compound sentences, because they're independent sentences, they're able to stand on their own. They're just joined together with the help of the coordinating conjunctions. So the example here, I will write the email and I will send a report to the manager. So every time you have a compound sentence joined by a coordinating conjunction, the first sentence has to be separated from the second one using a comma. So right after the first sentence in the compound, you add a comma and then go about with the conjunction and the second sentence in the set, right? This is something that is very commonly seen to be omitted in writing, right? Very common surface error. Lack of a comma in a compound sentence before the conjunction. Wrong words, use of wrong words, mostly because, they have separate spellings, and with separate spellings, they have separate meanings as well. So you should all take the advice seriously. Here, what's the problem? The spelling had to be ADVICE because we are using advice here as a noun, right? So the noun and verb spelling differences sometimes not observed in people's writing. Although I think now in American writing, people have normalized that. But I do not know if the standard conventions have accepted that, or is it just a social media thing that is going on. So it is, I think it's safe to still maintain the older system that we have, unless, of course, there's some kind of a, some kind of a guideline that is issued by the community which looks after this, right? So keep in mind about the change in spellings of certain words when used as nouns and verbs, right? Fifth one, wrong or missing verb endings. Okay, now this one should not be that big a problem. I think most of the people should be able to handle. Missing verb endings, actually this is a case of subject verb agreement more than missing verb endings. The verb endings are missing, that is like the surface error, but what has actually happened is the problem of, because that has been left out, there has been an error in the agreement pattern. So the new staff member always leaves her desk unattended, okay? Not leave. Then new staff member left the door open, okay? So left again is like a past form of leave. So some people tend to not transition between any of these, they just use leave everywhere. So that is one error. Then comes wrong or missing prepositions. I want to know who organized the event last month. My friend looks forward to meet you at the meeting. Okay. So what is the problem with the first sentence? The first sentence is okay, I guess it is an infinitive usage, so that's fine. Actually, the second one, my friend looks forward to meet you at the meeting. I've seen many errors where people would say, my friend looks forward to meet you in the meeting. Okay, so using wrong prepositions or missing out the prepositions altogether, right? This is also one of the common errors, surface errors that you see in writing. Then comma splices or fused sentences. Now, this is a case where you have two sentences, okay, which we are trying to put together. But remember, when you are joining two sentences, two independent sentences in English, there are at least three conventions, one of the three conventions that you need to follow in order to write it properly. So the first one is where you can separate them using a semicolon, right? That is the first, if you look at the three sentences after the example, first way of correcting them is to add a semicolon between the two independent sentences, or the one which we discussed where you add coordinating conjunction and before the conjunction you add a comma, right? Or the best method to avoid the problem of comma splices or few sentences is to separate the two sentences using a full stop, write them as two separate sentences. Comma splices basically mean when there are two independent sentences separated by a comma, right? So that is not allowed. In English, you cannot write two independent sentences. You cannot join two of them together by just separating them using a comma. This is called a comma splice. So instead of a comma, you can use a semicolon, or alternatively, you can use a full stop to separate two, or you can also alternatively add a coordinating conjunction and separate the second part from the first using a comma and a comma followed by a conjunction and the second sentence. Okay, so three different ways. Then comes the eighth one, the missing or misplaced possessive apostrophes, right? So apostrophes always create a problem because apostrophes can be used for two functions in English, right? So one is to show possession, right? In this case, Asha's office desk looks really neat. So here, Asha's office desk is basically apostrophe is used to mean possession, right? So you're showing that the office desk belongs to Asha. But that is not the case with the second one, right? You can use apostrophe also for, second one is basically misplaced use of apostrophe. So officers should, there you don't need an apostrophe because officers is actually a plural word there. But another place where apostrophe is used is also in the contractive marker, right? So I say, she's studying yesterday. So I can write that sentence as she apostrophe S studying yesterday. Now here, apostrophe doesn't mean possession. Here, apostrophe simply means you're using apostrophe to show a contracted form of she was, right? Just give that sentence in the um, chat so that it's easy for you to understand. She's studying yesterday. Okay, so if this is the sentence, then here she is basically a contracted form, or the expansion of this would be she was. Here, apostrophe is not used to show possession, like in the case of Asha's office desk. So this needs to be taken care properly. A lot of people commit errors on this front. And another error with respect to apostrophe is when you unnecessarily use it, like in the second sentence. Officers should report to the center on time. Here you don't need an apostrophe because officers is basically the plural form of officer. That is what the meaning was supposed to be. But people who are not good with these things, they can sometimes, they have they probably think that every time you have an S, you need to apply an apostrophe there. So that's not the case. Okay, ninth one, unnecessary shifts in tense. Okay, this is very important, unless and until required, when you're writing, you should maintain tense consistency, right? Tense needs to be consistently maintained. If you start writing with present tense, then you maintain it throughout, right? Unless, of course, the context or the situation demands you to use a different tense, right? Look at the example. The reports are presented to the clients. They have been verified. Okay. Now, what's the problem here? The reports are presented to the clients without any context or anything. Suddenly from simple past tense, it has been changed to they have been. Present perfect, right? For no reason, it has been changed to a perfective form. So this kind of unnecessary shift should not be, followed in writing. A better way or the right way of writing the sentence would be reports are presented to the clients. They are verified. Okay. Unless required, please do not change the tense of the writer. Sorry. Then comes unnecessary shift in pronouns. So just like tense consistency, one should also maintain pronoun consistency, right? So he was on their way back from work. What's the problem? What's the problem here? He was on their way back from work.
We are using a plural pronoun for the subject.
Yeah. For the singular subject, you are using a plural pronoun to refer back to it. So there's an inconsistency in the number of the pronoun used, right? If the subjects, if the reference, if the referent is singular, then the referee should also have the same number, right? You can't change it. So he was on their way back from work. He was on his way back from work. Okay. Sentence fragments. Yeah. Please do not use sentence fragments in professional writing. Always write full sentences, right? From the context of the email, I have seen some people writing, closing remarks in this way. Look forward to seeing you. Okay, they'll simply write it like this. Look forward to seeing you. Okay. Maybe in a professional setup, people may not write sentences like want to attend the meeting. But I have also seen people writing this. Sometimes people reply to email saying, want to come. Okay. So this is not how you reply professionally to people. Even if it is a yes, you would say, yes, please count me in. Okay. Or yes, I would like to attend the meeting, right? Instead of saying, yes, want to attend meeting. This is a very, very unprofessional and very informal way of talking to people, especially when you're writing back in professional spaces. So always ensure that your sentences are complete. Okay. So instead of writing, look forward to seeing you, say, I look forward to seeing you soon or seeing you on Monday, right? Few examples on your screen. Since yesterday, the work has been postponed, waiting for it to resume. The work has been postponed since yesterday. I am waiting for it to resume. Okay. So waiting for it to resume, basically this person is saying that, yeah, he or she is waiting. But then that's a wrong way because it's an incomplete sentence, or what we also call as a fragment sentence, right? It's not a sentence, it's only a sentence fragment. So do not use any, no, would love to join is also wrong because where is your subject, right? It's not a complete sentence. Whenever you're writing in professional spaces, everything has to be a full sentence. I would like to join the event, right? Not would like to join the event. That is more conversational, that's not professional. Okay. Lack of agreement, 12th one, lack of agreement between subject and verb, of course. Subject verb agreement, I don't think we need to discuss that. Obviously, that's one of the major grammatical errors. Ensure that your subject agrees with the verb. Okay. Or the other way around, verb agrees with your subject. Missing commas in a series. Now, this one, this is not like a strict thing, but some editors are they're stickler to this series comma. It is also called as the Oxford comma. These days, I think most of them let it pass, but then some editors, they are very almost like Nazis. They don't like doing this kind of omission. So they'll tell you, please use a series comma whenever you are, enlisting something that is more than two. So whenever you have a list of things, and if there are more than two things in that list, then each entity needs to be separated from each other using a comma. That is why it is called a series comma. I think many people are more liberal with it now. They're not very prescriptive about it, but you can still find editors who will strictly tell you to use a series comma. So use it if the editor asks you to, right? So as far as mails are concerned, your choice. And what is the series comma? Series comma is basically, usually when you write it the first way. You separate meeting, previous meeting, comma, files, and writing. So you don't use a comma before and because you're like, okay, already there is and, why should I use a comma? But series comma people who argue for series comma would say, no. You need to separate that last thing in the list also with a comma before the and, right? Like in the second case. Previous meetings, comma, files, comma, and writing pads must be laid on the table, right? This is why it's called a series comma. Okay. Then the 14th one, lack of agreement between pronouns and antecedents. So it's not just the subject and the verb that needs agreement. We also need agreement between the pronoun and its antecedent, right? What is an antecedent? Pronoun and its antecedent. The part which refers to the pronoun, right? So if you say, for example, don't have a noun, instead you have only a pronoun in the sentence, then even that pronoun and what it refers to also has to have some agreement, right? Look at the sentence. Each of the emails have been sent to their recipients. So what is the pronoun here in the first case, first sentence? What's the pronoun here? Each of the emails have been sent to their recipients. Which is the pronoun here? There, right? There. No. The first sentence, it's there. That is your pronoun, right? What is your antecedent? What is it referring to?
Recipients.
Not recipients. Recipients, correct. They're recipients. So, no, wait. Each of the emails have been sent to their recipients. Does there stand for recipients or there is basically a possessive pronoun?
Emails.
Right?
For the emails, maybe. Emails.
Each of the emails, right? So that whole phrase, not just the emails. Why is it important? Because, the phrases also account for the agreement part. That's why. So you don't say each of the emails have been sent to their recipients, right? Why? Because each of the emails is basically, if you have paid attention to the subject verb agreement session, then each of the emails, are we referring to all the emails together?
No.
No, ma'am. One at a time.
One at a time. So yes, we are referring to all of them, but to every single of the total. Okay, it's not the total as a whole, but every single in the total. So each of the emails. So here the sense is the reference to unit particle in the group. Hence, it has to remain singular. And if you look at the sentence in the first example, each of the emails have been sent to their participants. When you put there, it means you're treating them as a whole in plural. But that's not the case. Here the use is singular. Hence, you will have to change that pronoun to a singular pronoun, which is its. Okay. Each of the emails have been sent to its participants. Okay. So emails, each of the emails is the antecedent of the pronoun its in this case. Okay. The right
Ma'am, in the
antecedent.
first sentence, if it was written like all the emails have been sent to that, then it would be correct, right?
No, it's not right because see, each of the emails, right? We are referring to unit emails from the whole, talking about every single email, not the, all the emails put together. Okay.
No,
If it
no,
was,
no. If we start the sentence with all the emails have
oh,
been
if you
sent.
started with all, yes, all the emails have been sent to their participants, that is right. Or even simply saying emails have been sent to their participants, that's also right. But since the reference is to unit events, you will have to change the antecedent is basically singular. So the pronoun also has to be singular. That's the point. Okay. All right. I think this should be the last so the last one here, common errors, dangling or misplaced modifiers. Not a dangling, misplaced modifiers. Modifiers, what are the major modifiers in English? Which parts of speech or which class of words are modifiers in English? What helps you modify?
Adjective.
Yeah, adjectives or adverbs or alternatively adjectival clauses or adverbial clauses, right? All of them can help you modify a given noun. Noun in the case of adjectives and adjectival clauses. If it's an adverb then or adverbial clause, then it has to be either a verb, another adjective or verb, adjective or another adverb, right? So these are basically the modifiers in English. And they can either appear as one word or they can also appear as clauses, right? But whenever you have modifiers, it is always advised that the modifiers are found close to or they're found next to the entity being modified. When you remove the entity being modified and the modifier from each other, when there is a lot of distance between them, we call this a case of dangling or misplaced modifiers. So look at the example. I have submitted the paper clips to the department that were left over. Right? So what is your modifier here? That were left over. This adjectival clause is what your modifier is. But that modifier that were left over is basically the modifier for the paper clips, right? In the first sentence, see where the paper clips is written and where the modifier clause is present. Right? They're very removed from each other. They're distant from each other. And this is a wrong way of writing because it can also alter the meaning of the sentence sometimes, or sometimes give no meaning at all. So good writing will make sure, professional writing or good writing for that matter will ensure that both the modifier as well as what is being modified are as much as possible put together, right? That they appear next to each other. So a revised version of the sentence would be, I have submitted the paper clips that were left over to the department. Okay, that's a more, it's a clearer and better sentence as compared to the first one, which definitely brought in some kind of confusions and ambiguity. Okay, so these are examples of few, there could be more, but these are the most commonly found errors that I have put together based on what I have seen in people's writing. There could be more definitely, but these are the most commonly found ones. Okay, so if at least these things are corrected, then of course you can improve your writing multifold than what you're writing right now. So surface errors, keep these things in mind. So that's all. That's all with the teaching part for or explanation part for the editing and proofreading part is concerned. We are officially stopping the workshop explanations at this point. Of course, you're going to do some activities now. But that's all from my part on the mini lessons part. Okay. So if you have any questions to ask, you may, but otherwise I'm just going to share the document that you guys were working on yesterday. I'll share the link again so that you can work out the questions. Okay. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please do ask. So one more thing, this is not very important, but uh, just for the sake of practice, I've shared the link now for you, so you can start joining in the link for the activities. But one more thing in the slide, I don't remember if it is a part of this or. Yeah, I just want you to read through. Don't do anything, just read through those sentences on the slide. These are basically some of the most commonly used verbs in emails, right? Just read them. You don't have to do anything, just read them, just take a glance at them. And once you're done reading, you can join the link that is now shared in the chat. I think the first exercise that you have in the link after you join it is based on this. So just take a look at those sentences that you have in the slide. They provide you with some very commonly used verbs in the professional domains, professional email domain. So you can take a look at that and then use it to answer the first set of questions that you have for today's class. Once you're done reading this and after you join the link, please let me know if you're able to access it and you're able to write your answers. Yesterday, I think some people had a problem, although I have switched on the student pace mode on, but just let me know if you're able to access it properly. Okay, have you been able to join?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you're able to answer, right? The navigation is all properly
Yeah,
visible, right?
yeah. Everything is prop. Everything is prop.
Okay, thank you. So those of you who have done reading, please start solving the questions. Fill in the blanks with the appropriate form of the verbs from the bracket given below. And remember, each of these blanks may have more than one answer, right? Some of them could have multiple answers possible. Just make sure that you're writing it well, right? Like for example, some of these verbs like reply will have, in certain cases, you can also write reply to or posted to. So written to, sent to. So just keep in mind that. You can continue looking at the other questions also. If you're done with this, you can move on to the next one, which is structure and format. Um, Structure and format is basically an editing exercise. So you're going to read through that email, right? And you're going to make necessary changes. You're basically going to edit that email. We discussed about editing and proofreading, right? So you're going to edit that email to, make it look more appropriate. I'll see what you're doing and then I'll discuss with you. So once you're done with exercise 5, please move on to 6th one, which is an exercise in editing. Remember all the things that we discussed about the editing part. Apply that here. Okay. Try to wind this up by 5:35, both these questions, so that you have some time to write the 2 emails, right, for practice. Question 6, you have to edit it, right? You go through the email and you basically rewrite it after editing it, right? Look at it and see what all edits you require, both the form and the language, right? See if the format is correct. See if the structure is correct. Also look for errors of language or, uses of word choice, all of those. Check for all of that and see if not check and see, just edit them for all of them and rewrite the email, right? Also keep in mind that we are talking about professional email. So this one looks like a very long email. Nobody will write this much of content in that. So edit it also for the length. That's the idea. Sure. Please keep working on that questions. I have now posted the answers for question 5 in your chat. But continue working on the structure and format exercise. Once you're done with that, we'll move on to the actual question on email writing. Right now, if you've done both editing and also looked at the parts, it should be okay for you to now draft an email, right? So finish this exercise, structure and format. Take some time. Uh, maybe by 5:40, you should be able to finish it. Then you'll still have another 20 minutes. In that 20 minutes, you can do the last exercise, which is the email writing. Okay. Okay, have some of you at least finished doing this one? The editing exercise is what I'm referring to. So I'm not going to like go over, I'm reading what you have written. That's, I'll take a closer look in a bit. But to begin with, if you're editing, then I'll give you just a few pointers on, what you could have edited it for, right? So first thing is the subject line, right? That is a very unclear subject line. So after having read the email, you should have known what it is about, and you need to alter your subject line accordingly, right? So if you've written something like follow up on upcoming project or something, then it is fine. It's still fine. It can be made a little better if you write something like project update and follow up meeting, right? So that sounds a bit more, it adds more clarity because it's actually about the project update. And then if a follow up meeting is required, he is requesting for one, right? He says, if required, do that. So major part is the project update and then the follow up meeting. So if that is written, then well and fine. But even if you've written something like follow up on upcoming project, I think that is also fine. Okay, I'll still take it. Then the salutation simply says hi, which I don't think is the right way in the professional email. So you'll have to change that to dear and the person's name. Whether you want to use the title Mr. or Miss and all, that depends. If you use it, it's okay. That would be better, right? Dear Mr. or Miss XYZ. That should be the better way to do that. Then I think the second thing should also be about, so basically, I mean, salutation lacks formality here. You need to add that. Then, yeah, so why we use this salutation is also because it looks like a email exchange between companies, right? So this is not an internal thing, which is why we are adding more formality to address and, to present something. Then the initial part, which says, I hope this email finds you well, not required. That's not some kind of expression that you would want to have in professional communications. Not wrong, but that the point is not necessary. Okay. So you can simply start by saying, I would like to propose a follow-up meeting to review the key details of upcoming project and ensure alignment across the team. Please confirm your available. So this is basically the body of the email, but I'm not going to read over what I've written, but I'm just going to tell you what you have to keep in mind. Of course, if you look at the body, it's a very long email, right? It's a very, there are too many things written, too many words put together, and we do not do that in professional emails, right? So we need to first write the purpose statement, which is I would like to propose a follow-up meeting to review the key details of coming project and ensure alignment across the team. Please confirm your available timings for the same. So this two together forms your purpose statement. Then because this person also has to inform about a key detail, which is Susan still waiting on the budget details, right? So you'll have to add that as an additional line. So this is the detail statement then. Additionally, Susan from the finance team informed me that she's still waiting on budget details from the marketing team. I request you, now this is the last one, is the call for action. Once the detail is over, purpose, detail, and then the last one would be the call for action statement, which is I request you to advise as necessary. I look forward to hearing from you soon. That is the closing remark. Okay, I look forward to hearing from you soon. That's the closing remark. And then you are going to sign it off with the complimentary close. Okay, that's all your email would look like if you're editing it, right? What all things have you edited it for? You have edited it for subject lines clarity, salutations formality, then unnecessary expressions which makes the tone personal, like I hope you this email finds you well, etc. Cutting out irrelevant details, like as the project is really important for the company, not required. All those details are unnecessary. I was thinking that we should probably, too many unnecessary words have come in, right? make sure that everyone is clear on what needs to be done. Too many words and phrases which otherwise should be removed. I know everyone is busy, but I really think, okay, again, irrelevant details. You need to be to the point. Doesn't matter what you think and all that. Just to say what you want them to do. Then I am not sure if you are aware of this, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. Okay, all of those are unnecessary clutter and irrelevant phrases, which just adds to the bulkiness of the email, and also it makes it a little personal in tone. So it removes the objectivity from the email. And the last sentence, if you see anyway, let me know. So this is like a very informal expression. Anyway, let me know. Okay. So you need to change all of that for the formality expressions. Additionally, you can also see a lot of usage of contractive forms like she's, I am, it's, right, we are, too many apostrophe contractive forms. So we have already discussed this in the instance of informal language, that we do not use contractive forms in writing. Okay. Yeah. Then, of course, the last part, the complementary clause is again very, it's, it sounds very flat, like thanks. Okay, thanks is something which is considered more than informal, it is very flat. So you change that to sincerely in your designation, right? So these could be a few of the things that you should have kept in mind while you are editing this. If you have been able to do at least, 4 or 5 of them, then you are, on the path of improvement. If not, please make sure that you include all of these things as well, right? If you're done with this one, please move on, which you should be ideally. We have another 12, 13 odd minute. Please take up, there are 2 questions, but I'll suggest that you do at least the first question here, okay? Please read the question, scenario 1, announce it. This is an email that you're writing to announce a company policy change. What is the scenario? There has been a change in company policy or procedures that employees need to be informed about. This is the scenario. The content of your email should clearly explain policy change, outline any actions employees need to take, address potential concerns, and provide contact information for further questions. Okay. So this is one question. You choose among the 2. If you are comfortable with this question, you do this one. Or you do the second one, which is inviting colleagues to a team building event. Scenario is you're organizing a team building event or social gathering for your department. The email content needs to include extending a formal invitation to colleagues, providing details about the event, like date, time, location, agenda, and encourage RSVPs. Okay. So since due to time constraints, I'll ask you to choose one among the 2. Otherwise, I usually make people write both. So since I want to have at least one written email from you, I would like you to have, you to choose between these 2 scenarios and write one email, right, on this one. So that's for the next 10 minutes. It should not take more than 5 or 6 minutes for you. Let's see. You can go a little beyond 6 o'clock. I do not mind 5 or 10 minutes, but please write this email before you log out of the session today, okay? Meanwhile you're writing, I'll try and leave the edited version of that email for the editing exercise with some clues on what has gone into it. So you keep writing, I'll write this one here, okay? So please continue writing your email.
Ma'am, we have to make our policies or
Sorry?
something. We have to make our policy scenarios or something.
Do you? Yeah, just come up with one policy that's all. Something, like a dress code change or change in uh, clock in time or something of that sorts, right? Just one. Don't put too many. Just one. Maybe it's better that you write that one change that you want to talk about in the email itself, because this is not like a project policy change or anything, right? This is like a company policy change. That's all. So you don't have to. This is more like a semi-formal situation, so you don't have to uh, say that it's attached in the PDF below. Then there is no content for you to write in the email. You simply say that okay, there's a company policy change. Please refer to the PDF. I want you to write something and address the participants, sorry, the colleagues. Okay. Okay. Yeah, if you want to do, you can do the second one also, but you can do that at your, discretion at your time, because this will remain open. So you can write on that. For the time being, if you've written one, then that should be more than enough. Then I have also shared the details of the editing exercises, right? So I've given the edited version of the email that you did for the editing exercise. I've also included the changes that have been made to all of these. Okay. Like what exactly are the changes or the edits that we have made to that email, right? So please use this as a model while you're writing. You can also self-evaluate the email that you've written. So please use this as a pointer or this is a sample for you to judge how you've written your own email, right? So this is like a good sample of how you should work around the professional emails. Whatever your topic is, whatever the question is, it maintains like a very subtle form, right? Like you see here. Changes, I did not mention the, what is the purpose statement, detail statement, and complimentary close and closing remarks and all that, because there's some, I could not include all of that because of the word limit in this one. But we know, right? If you read that email, the first two lines basically is your purpose statement. I would like to propose a follow-up meeting to review the key details of the upcoming project. I request you to confirm your availability for the same. This is your purpose. Then additionally, this is detail, right? Additionally, Susan from the finance team has informed me about a delay in communication on the budget details from the marketing team. I request you to advise on, so this line, I request you to advise on the same as necessary is a call for action statement. And the last one is a closing remark. I look forward to hearing from you. And sincerely, followed up by your name and designation, right? So these are the breakups. If you look at the structure of the email, this is the structure. And other edits we have made includes the clarity of the subject line, formality for salutation, omission of informal languages like pleasantries, contractions, expressions, then deletion of expressions and statements that makes the tone personal, omission of irrelevant details, reduction in length for conciseness, right? This is basically what you should be looking at when you are writing your email or editing it, right? So you can use the same, you can use this as a touchstone for working on your emails that you've written. If you've done one of the email, then well and good for the session today. If you want to keep working on it, also answer the second one. This link is available to you. I'm not closing it up until maybe say tomorrow. So if you want to write it and practice, you can do that. Okay. But for the time being, I think it should be well and good. Okay. So I think we can end the session today. I hope the sessions were useful for you. People have not been able to join. I hope they get back and take a look at the recording for today's session. This, what we discussed over the past 3 days, should be more than enough for you to come up with a well-written professional email, right? So of course, use these, apply these while you are now drafting mail for the next time. Even, you will have to take up some exams when you go for the placements, right? So there, I think mostly they ask you to draft professional emails and also part of the question. So keep this in mind. You can utilize this for that as well. And if you have any questions regarding this, of course, you can write to the team. That's all from my side. Thank you for joining in and, spending some time over this. We'll meet again for professional writing part 2, which would happen in another, I think, couple of weeks, maybe 1 or 2 weeks later. Okay. Thank you. Then if you're done, then we can close the session for today. And I'll see you all again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone. See you again.